Howdy, y'all. I am Kurtis Sunset, back with a new episode on this Weathering Rainbows Wednesday. Today we have a guest from Evansville, Indiana, which is just a hop, skip, and a jump from where I grew up in McLean County, Kentucky. He is an art major. He actually designed our Weathering Rainbows logo that we use for the show. So go get your merch of that logo on our TeePublic page. We are very appreciative of him and look forward to hearing about his story. It's probably going to be very similar to my own growing up in this area. Our guest today is William Rodenberg. And William, can you introduce yourself to the world?
Yeah. Hi, I'm William Rodenberg. I'm from Evansville, Indiana. I grew up there, and I'm still living there.
William, I know that you grew up Catholic, and
Yes.
you first went to Catholic schools. What was that experience like growing up?
Honestly, it wasn't as terrible as you'd think it would be. I did get picked on, of course, made fun of for being gay. I mean, I didn't really know that I was gay at the time, and honestly, that wasn't really a concept that was like very like normal to me. I just didn't realize what it was, you know.
Right.
The first time I really ever like heard of the word gay or just like the term, it was when someone asked me if I was, when I was like playing baseball. Like I was like 6 and they asked me if I was a faggot, and I was just like,
Wow.
and I was just like, I don't know, like I don't know what that means. So I asked my dad later that day, and he kind of told me what it meant, and I was just like, oh, okay, well, I don't know, you know, like
Right.
I
6
like,
years old.
yeah, probably 6, 7, 8, whatever. But either way,
So at what age did you finally come to terms with the fact that you were gay?
I think I always really knew. I mean, I don't remember a time where like I thought girls were like super awesome and like I wanted to date them, you know, like I thought they were super awesome because I thought they were like pretty and cool and I wanted to hang out with them. But I've always kind of liked guys, I think, like
Right.
as far as I can remember, you know. So 4, 5, 6, I mean,
Did you have that like coming out experience, or was it just like a natural flow, I guess?
it was definitely a coming out experience. I remember saying things to my dad about like my coach being hot and like stuff like that, and him being weird about it and telling me to like never say that again. And those are kind of the only like little things that I remember. But I remember I was at my mom's house, and it was just like on my mind, weighing heavy on me. You know how it is. Like you just want to tell somebody. You don't want to tell everybody you're gay because it's like, it's just who I am, you know, and it's like, there's no reason for me to hide it, really. So I was with my mom at my mom's house, and I had like my bag packed because I just wasn't sure how she was going to react. And it's just like, I live in Evansville. So there's a bunch of like hillbillies. I don't want to say hillbillies,
Right.
but you know what I mean? Like the word fag and like gay and all that's just used so negatively. And
Definitely. I mean,
So-
growing up in this environment, you do get that a lot in terms of,
it's
all
just
growing up in-
ignorance, really. I mean, just people are just ignorant to it. They just don't, it's just not normal to them. So they just don't understand. I
Right.
mean, anyone could tell you that, but
and they utilize those terms, for the negative. So
Right.
did you come out while you were like in Catholic school, or once you reached public school?
No. So I didn't come out till I was 15 in high school. And that's what I was saying. I was at my mom's house. And I had my bag packed, and I was like ready to go to my friend Orion's or whoever's because I was just like nervous and scared. And I walked down the stairs, and I was just like crying already for some stupid ass reason. And then I was just like, Mom, I need to talk to you. And we just like went outside because I was crying, and she's like, are you okay? I'm like, I don't know, like I think I am, but like and I was just like, I'm gay. And she was like, okay. And I was just like, okay, like,
So just kind of that solemn acceptance, I guess.
right. And it wasn't even like disappointment like I thought it was gonna be. She was just like okay with it. Like she she was just like, it's what it is.
Right.
She's like, your uncle's gay. Like, I never told you that, but like, you could probably tell, and I could. But I mean, yeah, she never really had an issue with it. And the only thing is, like, I felt like she maybe tried to keep it not secret, but just didn't really want to talk about it a lot, which was okay with me at the time because I didn't really want to talk about it that much either. It was just a relief to be able to like tell my mom, like, hey, I'm gay. And, I had already told all my sisters, and they obviously didn't care. My family wasn't really super religious. I mean, I grew up Catholic, but like my mom and my dad weren't super like driven by the Bible and like all the words and whatever. Like my grandma was. My grandma still just like has never had a conversation with me about being gay, and won't. I don't know why, but she won't ever. She doesn't ask me anything about it, but she like loves God and loves Jesus, and that's her thing. So
As that conservative upbringing, yeah.
Right, and she's never gonna change, so it's whatever.
So I think this is actually where like your and my story is going to be quite different. So I didn't come out till I was 20 in college, and you came out or started kind of coming out around the age of 15, and doing that in this area, obviously, you probably did have some backlash in terms of from your friends or various people. What was that like?
I think that by the time that I came out, most of the friends that I had developed in high school already knew, and not because I told them, but just, well, I mean, I guess because I told them, but I mean, they just didn't care. It just wasn't, we didn't have to talk about it, and now my best friend Maddie, she's gay too. So, I mean, it just came full circle, I guess. But
it's weird how we flock to other gays.
Yeah, it is weird.
My best friend in high school, like, he was gay too, and we didn't know really until college that we both were,
Right.
So whenever you're LGBTQ in a rural area, obviously you don't have a lot of that same visibility that you would if you were growing up in, say, New York City.
Or like LA. Or,
right.
Yeah.
And like obviously like with Netflix and different things, like a lot of that is coming about here. But what was your experience like? Like what type of visibility did you have growing up of the gay community?
I think that anything that I wanted to learn, I had to do on my own. I don't mean that in like a bad way. Like I just feel like I wasn't taught anything about gay culture as a kid. Right. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have anyone around me that was gay. So like it was never something that I could just like latch onto somebody and like ask them for help, or it was always me Googling or right. just like going to the internet to find that information, which is important as well. I think it's important to do
because I bet that whenever you were in school, like you had to do a lot of this research on your own, but you probably had a sex education course, or did you not have one at all because you went to Catholic school?
I went to public school and we still didn't have sex education.
Really?
Oh man.
I mean, it just like I'm not gonna say half the girls in our school were pregnant, but but like I mean, there was always every year there was one or two girls, you know what I mean, in our class that were pregnant. I mean,
right.
we weren't. I don't know why we weren't having those conversations. I mean, and they didn't even have to be about being gay, like gay sex. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
We had like a health class. We were taught how the body changes, whatever. But like, I never really had that kind of education ever. I mean, even from my parents, I didn't. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I mean, I feel like I had to learn a lot of that on my own.
Yeah. And I think that's the case for a lot of kids in rural areas.
Whether it be like books or magazines at the library or like.
So I know you're an artist. What type of art do you do?
I've always drawn. I've always painted. I've always just loved working with anything I can put in my hand and draw on paper or paint on paper or whatever. Wood, anything. I think that the design part came a lot later. I mean, obviously it did, because that wasn't really something that I thought about doing until college, which is strictly career based. You know what I mean? So I think that I was kind of trying to find a career out of my talent, and more of a career than just being an artist, just painting pictures and drawing pictures, right. Because I mean, that's cool and all, and some people are really, really successful at it, but others aren't, and I think I just thought that graphic design to me would be much more marketable, and I think that I'm good at it. So,
and I think we would agree.
Thank you. Yeah. So to answer your question, I mean, I've just always been into art. I do illustration. Most of the stuff that I do now is digital illustration. Or I'll just draw in my sketchbook or something like that. But most of it's digital illustration or logo making. Or my mutuals on Twitter are probably have a big influence on me. And I mean, they're not famous. I mean, I guess they kind of are, but they're not. I mean, they're not in magazines or whatever.
Right.
But I mean, they're normal people that have the same experiences that I do, and some different, and it's cool to learn from them and to just be able to talk to them all the time. And
I actually see that a lot with graphic designers, in terms of it seems like they build a very tight community. I mean, online presence, there's groups specifically for that. The graphic designer that actually does some of my photo work, he's always talking about, how close that community is. Would you say that?
Yeah, I would. I don't know if I personally have a lot of graphic designer friends, but there is an Evansville design group that is kind of meant to give that kind of connection to other people or other artists, and I was involved with it for a while, but I quit going to Ivy Tech because I graduated, and it was just, I just grew apart from it. But I would say that they're pretty tight knit. I mean, they get together all the time and collaborate and have meetings and stuff.
So one last question on influencers, and then we'll move on from this topic. Okay. So I noticed on Instagram that you met one of my favorite singers, Lily Allen.
Oh, yes.
So
Kevin met her too.
Yeah. So tell me a little about that experience. That was one of my undergrad, favorites. So.
Yeah, Lily Allen, I've loved her for years. That first album of hers was just so spunky and just inappropriate and raw and just fun, and I just loved that energy. So being able to see her live as an adult, when I was 22, 23, I don't know when it was a couple years ago, but being able to see her now, and especially after her latest album, which was a lot more personal to her and reflected a lot more of her personal life and emotional life, I was really appreciative to be able to see her in that moment, because she sang all of her old songs too, so that was cool.
Did you get to talk to her or ask her any
questions?
It
was a very brief encounter, because the meet and greet was very last minute.
Right.
She was sick, I guess, and she didn't think that she was performing as well as she could. So she was like, "Fuck it! You can all get your record signed. I'll meet you, get a picture, all of you." And so she did it. Everyone lined up afterwards, and we all got to meet her, and it was awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah,
I'm jealous.
She's one of my favorites too. I love her so much. She just married that guy from Stranger Things, David Harbour.
Oh wow!
Wow!
I didn't know that.
It was just random.
Well, and isn't it her brother was on Game of Thrones, wasn't he?
Yeah, Theon Greyjoy. Yeah.
So that's just
she has a song about him, Alfie.
Yeah, just a ridiculously talented family. I wish my family was just that ridiculously talented. All right, so I want to hop right into our hot segment, which is
Okay.
our heap of trouble segment.
So there is one story that comes to my mind, and I don't really. I mean, it's probably not going to be appropriate, but it's one that my dad likes to tell, because he's like father. You know, he's my dad, so he's really fatherly and emotional, and he tells the story a lot differently than I do because he thinks, I don't know why he thinks he sees it, or like I don't know why he thinks like it went this way when it went the other way, but I was 15 and I was talking to this man in Clarksville, Tennessee, and he was not he shouldn't have been talking to me. He shouldn't have ever been talking to me. But
I would
he,
say not. You
but
were
he,
15
but
years
he
old.
was, and he was at an age that wasn't appropriate at all. And so I was with him in Evansville, and I got a text from my dad that said, "Come outside." And I was like, because I'm in like a hotel room with this 28-year-old man, you know, and
Wow.
it's like, and I'm having a great time because I'm 15 and I think that this man loves me or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
And my dad texts me and he's like, "Come outside." And I'm like, "Oh my fucking God." Like my dad is outside of this hotel. And I'm like, "Come outside where?" He's like, "You're at Orion's, right?" My best friend was Orion at the time. And I was like, "Oh yeah, but we went to like the east side to Walmart with his mom because she needed to do some things, you know?"
Right.
So he's like, "Well, I'm going to come get you." And I was like, okay, well, I'll be waiting here at Walmart, I guess. So yeah, I was like in this hotel with this guy and I was like, "We gotta fucking go." Or like, "You're going to jail." Like, period.
Right.
Like, you are going to jail. Like you've got to drop me off at Walmart. Like, my dad's on his way there now. And honestly, that was kind of a terrible moment for me because, looking back now, I wish I would have never even met that man. And you know, it kind of sparked a really like awful conversation with me and my dad, because at the time I wasn't really out to him. I was only really out to my mom, and I was only really comfortable talking about this stuff with my mom. So his idea, you know, of it was like, "You're not going to be gay. Like, you're basically not allowed to do that. Like, you're not going to date a boy. Like, that's just not how it's going to go." And keep in mind, like, he didn't even realize that I was with this older man. You know what I mean? Like, he had no idea. He thought I was just with my friend Orion. So yeah, I mean, that kind of came from that, and that kind of made me not like my dad for a while. But in the end of it, I mean, he cared about me and he was trying to protect me, and
Right.
I can respect that, and I value that more than the man that I was with. So
Yeah, that's honestly, I think that's a very common occurrence in LGBTQ culture is, you know, younger guys that, you know, are under the age of 18 that get on the apps, get on stuff that then, you know,
exactly. And I like to like sometimes go into my head and think that it was like my fault because I was on the apps and like I was the one that was like, you know, initiating those conversations and having those conversations with people that I shouldn't be. But like at the end of the day, it's like that happens all the time, and those grown ass men should have like realized that like they shouldn't have been talking to me. So
and they should at least check an ID or something, you know, like that's, if you're that young, you're not going to look.
Well, part of it is that they knew that I wasn't 18, which is even more
which
weird.
is worse. Yeah.
Which is even far more weird than the latter. So,
And I think that's something like I just like to talk about. One thing I think that LGBTQ plus culture is kind of missing And I don't really know how to do it where it's a legal thing, but I think it's difficult for, kids that are under the age of 18. You've got straight couples all through high school.
Yeah.
You've got, so you see that everywhere in high school. They're dating, they're, kissing the bleachers, all that kind of stuff. But it's harder for gay kids to meet.
I think that's where a lot of that stemmed from. It's like all my sisters had boyfriends.
Mm-hmm.
All my sisters had someone on the weekend or whatever, weeknights. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that in like a weird sexual way, but like, they had boyfriends. They had people to see. And I didn't have that. I didn't have a 17-year-old boy at school like wanting to date me. You know what I mean? Like it was this 30-year-old man in Clarksville, Tennessee.
Right.
And
maybe that's something like that, this story kind of brought up to me that's missing out there is like there should be something to where, high school age kids can kind of meet other gay kids to have that type of relationship.
And I think that it also has to do with a lot with like parenting and just like, because I feel like a lot of the problem is that kids don't want to admit that they're gay. You know what I mean? So it's like, so even if they know that they are, and even if they know that so-and-so in their class is gay, they're not going to like pursue that because they don't want the backlash that comes from that, whether it be from the other boys, the straight boys at their school, which happened to me a lot. I don't know why it was such a big deal to them that I was gay, but like they all just like wanted to know. You know what I mean? It's so weird. It's just like, why do you guys even care so much? Like, it makes no sense. And they ended up bullying me less after they knew I was gay than before. It's so strange.
Is there anything that you feel is like a common myth or like a false perception that a lot of people in this area has about the gay community?
They tend to think that like gays like as a whole are stuck up. I think that like that's a lot of their own insecurity that they're projecting onto like the whole gay community, because I've met some really awesome people online and in different cities. I feel like, that kind of mentality will like leave you lonely. It's
right.
I feel like you're never going to make friends if you just think that everyone is just like rude and stuck up and bitchy. Like I had some guy at Mo's house. It's a bar downtown in Evansville. I had some guy like come up to me and just tell me I was bitchy. And I was like, I've never even met you in my life. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
And he's just like some drunk daddy. And I'm just like,
yeah, just thanks for coming up and talking to you.
I don't want you to buy me a drink. I'm fine with here with my friends. Like, I'm not stuck up.
I think that's something about gay culture that does need to change. Like, I feel like a lot of times you have guys that try to make an advance on you by insulting you to start out with. Like,
yeah, I'm just like, no, that doesn't turn me on. Mm-hmm. And also you're not turning me on. So it's like, this is like a double whammy,
right.
It's like none of this is doing it for me. So like,
how has I know from my experience, how has your experience been in this area with the whole ghosting concept?
I've been ghosted so many times. And it's not even people from here. I've been ghosted by people that I thought I was going to date for a really long time. I've been ghosted by people that I was supposed to fly to in 2 days. I've been ghosted by people that I was supposed to move into with. I've been ghosted by...
And I think that's crazy. Like, for me...
There's no rhyme or reason for it. It's just...
For me, like, because I got out and I went to Louisville and then I went to Atlanta and then I went to Jacksonville. And, I've been around in bigger cities. But when I came back, that's whenever I really started noticing this whole ghosting trend becoming a huge deal.
I think that it's a big deal here because if you go on to Grindr right now, you'll see that like 50% of the profiles are blank.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And it's like half of them are like bi-curious or like married. I don't want to say bi-curious.
Married.
Like I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean they're typically married with kids because like that's just what you do. I mean, that's just how life is, I mean, and this is Indiana. you have the power to change your course whenever you want. And if they wanted to be open about being gay or liking men and women, then they would have done it. And bisexual men are that way. And I wish that they weren't, because I feel like that's why people are like, being bisexual is not a thing. I feel like that's why bi erasure is a thing, and it shouldn't be. But bisexual men, in my experience, only want to just have sex with men. They don't want to date men. You know what I mean? Like, that's in my experience.
I could see that being more in the rural areas,
Absolutely.
Because and
that's
like,
just in my experience, and I've not lived anywhere but here. So,
yeah, I mean, that could definitely be a rural thing for bisexual men, because they want that normalcy and being accepted in this type of community.
Right.
They don't want the hardship that comes along with having to tell somebody that you are attracted to the same sex. I think it's also important to kind of flip that and talk about it from the standpoint of the ghosting aspect of, why that you shouldn't do that. Even if you're young and that's happened to you a lot, because I think a lot of times, like, we end up doing a lot of the things that were done to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, like, one of the big things I would want to put out there is, like, even if you've been ghosted, understand that, like, it's a lot easier to just tell somebody, hey, I'm not interested, or hey, I've gotten to a relationship with somebody that's getting serious. Hey, and people are going to respect that for the most part. And if they don't respect it, that's the point in which you can hit that Alt Control Delete button in their life.
Yeah, I mean, I had experience like that. I mean, very similar to that. Like, I mean, this guy was like so into me, it was weird, but he was obviously not out. You know what I mean? He never even told me that he was bi. You know what I mean? It was just like, I just like saw you on an app, and like we hung out many times, and that was the thing, is like, it was always like he wanted more from me, but like he would block me all of a sudden. You know what I mean? And then text me 3 months later and be like, hey, miss you. Or he'd just show up at my house throwing rocks at my window. You know what I mean? which is like all good and cute and whatever. Like, whenever you're like 18, 19, you're like, oh my God, he's like actually so in love with me.
Right.
Like, he threw rocks at my window. This is great. But it's so damaging to like your mental health to like keep inviting someone back in your life that's like literally wants nothing to do with you, essentially. I mean, except for the fact that you might just like give them head here and there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like, sorry if that's inappropriate,
No,
but
you're good.
But like, that's really all it was, and it's like, why? Yeah, it's like, why would you even act like you wanted anything out of this if you knew that you didn't?
I think sometimes that, the blocking and stuff like that is almost, I mean, I think that they've got issues, obviously, because
he has issues, yes.
But I think it could also be like just the intimidation factor of like, we're all open about our sexuality. We all are, more than comfortable putting our face out there on, something that says, hey, I'm gay, but a lot of these men in rural areas, they're not comfortable doing that. And I think that we intimidate them so much that, like, if you see them out in public, they're never going to say anything to you.
Absolutely. I'm at that point with this person at my gym. Mm-hmm. So frustrating.
And you have to play to their level. Like, and I think they're in a rural community. Like, that's one of the big messages is we've got to stop doing that. I think too, like, I understand like living in this area, like not wanting to come out fully, but I think a big message is like that still does not give you the right to disrespect gay members that are out fully by playing these games, like what happens.
Yeah, and I don't think that that's always necessarily intentional. I think that it stems from obviously them being insecure and them not being comfortable with themselves, and then them not knowing how to handle that. Mm-hmm. Especially for someone that has always dated women. I mean, not me, but like putting myself in that perspective, has always dated women, and then all of a sudden starts catching feelings for a guy, and it's like, what the fuck am I going to do?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like, I can't do that. And I feel like that's why they ghost you. I feel like that's why, like, you don't hear from them for 3 months, and then they miss you or whatever, and then they hit you back up. You know, it's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't think that it's always meant to be malicious, you know, but it ends up being that way.
I would agree, but I think they do that to so many younger LGBTQ plus, you know, type of individuals that then they end up thinking that that's an acceptable thing to do. So, like, as, you know, our show really targets gay youth in terms of, you know, teaching them the ropes and stuff. Well, one of the things is just because some older man does this to you doesn't mean it's acceptable, even, you know, in the community.
Yeah.
Let's go into our do's and don'ts segment. I believe you've got 3 do's and 3 don'ts. I know we've given a lot of advice already.
Yeah, a lot of my do's and don'ts are kind of like integrated into everything that we've said, but I can still say them.
Yeah, give us a nice, clear picture.
My big do's would be to prioritize your mental health, because I feel like, I mean, really all 3 of us can understand how, like, mean people can be. And I don't even mean gay people. Like, I just mean, like, the world. You know, they're going to say things that are going to hurt you. Men are going to do things that are going to hurt you. You know, you were kind of saying work on yourself. That's one of the most important things you can do. You know, that's, like, taking time for yourself and, like, making sure that you're okay, and, like, you know, just all of those things, you know. And I feel like that's especially the case for gay people, because a lot of them feel stuck, and a lot of them don't think that, or they don't know that they have an endless supply of people that want to help them, and want to see them grow as a person. So whether that be talking to a therapist, or reaching out to somebody on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram, you know, they don't even have to respond, but, like, sometimes just, like, saying what you need to say to somebody that influences you, or that, like, has helped you, you know, it does things.
One last piece on the mental health component and working through things. I think especially kids in rural areas, even if you go see a therapist, don't necessarily think that therapist is the right therapist for you.
Right.
You know, there's a lot of therapists out there that, you know, still are homophobic. And so if you're getting those vibes, ask to go see another.
Yeah. My next point it goes with the mental health thing, but it kind of goes with that, where, like, make sure that the people in your life are people that are going to uplift you and support you and care about you. Because we don't have time to be giving people attention that are so toxic, and that, you know, like, your homophobic grandpa, like, who gives a shit about him anymore? You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, but, like, I don't talk to my grandma for that reason, really. You know what I mean? And it's like, I would rather her not be in my life, because she doesn't try to understand me. You know what I mean? She's never, like I said, she's never once asked me about being gay, or, you know, if I'm dating anyone, or, you know, any of that. So get those toxic people out your life.
I think a good clear way to say that is, no matter how much you love the song Toxic, we don't accept toxic people in our lives.
Right. So we love toxic. Free Britney.
Right.
Please, free Britney. So my next point would be to prioritize your sexual health. Because I feel like, especially in the gay community, people don't like to wear condoms, and that's fine. But be responsible about it. You know, like, especially for young people that don't understand what getting tested is. I mean, literally, they don't, you know, and luckily, like, I had, again, like, probably people I shouldn't have been talking to, but, like, when I was younger, but they still helped me get that kind of care. I would say the big one is, like, don't let anyone invalidate your experience as a gay person or trans person or whatever you are. You know, don't let people make you think you're otherwise whenever you know, I mean, in your heart and your mind, that you're one way. You know, I feel like even gay men can be that way, kind of toxic sometimes, where they act like their experience is either better or worse, and maybe it is, but everyone is going through their own struggle, and everyone is going through it differently. So,
and there are many different types of sexualities.
And I think, yeah, exactly. And I think that that's what is also very important about being gay is like we all share this same experience, but we're all going about it different ways. And I guess straight people can say the same too, but being gay is just much more special, I think. Don't be afraid to reach out to people. I feel like a lot of the reason why younger kids commit suicide or tell themselves that they're not gay and end up getting married and having kids, a lot of the reason for that is because they didn't feel comfortable enough to reach out to somebody and express how they felt or who they are. You know what I mean? Like they're stuck in this city or town, village, whatever. And they can't express those things to people, And
the Trevor Project is really good for that if you don't feel like you've got anyone to talk to.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that even going online and reaching out to people is helpful too. Like there are hotlines for LGBTQIA plus youth. There's just lots of resources, I think, that people don't realize that are out there.
And I think I would say a good 85-90% of LGBTQ plus people out there, if you just reach out to them directly and say, hey, I'm going through this, they're going to talk to you about the experience. They know, especially if they come from rural areas like us, that, kids sometimes don't have someone to reach out to. So I think that's important. Just, reach out online, like you said.
Yeah, and I feel like that more so is a lot more important now because I think, that mindset is kind of changing about gay people and gay culture and whatnot. I saw a video on TikTok of these two boys in high school that were like dating and kissing and cuddling and whatever, and I loved that. Right. It just made me happy that like they were able to do that and that they had a safe and comfortable and I don't really know, but I'm assuming that they have a safe and comfortable enough home life and like an environment that they are able to like have a boyfriend at their age, and like that's something that I wish that I could have had, I mean, I don't know. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I definitely agree. What is the last don't?
It's kind of cheesy.
We love cheesy on this show.
I just think that you shouldn't have any reason to not express yourself the way that you want to. I think that like gender norms are becoming like super like fluid and mixed, and I love that. I think, this goes for all people really. I mean, it's just don't be afraid to be who you want to be and who you are. Like,
no matter what that is.
Right. I mean, you're just wasting your breath and your time trying to be something you're not. And, it's not going to serve you in any way. You're not going to be happy. And people aren't, you're just not going to be happy. People, and people aren't going to want to like, I feel like people engage with people that are confident in themselves, and not to say that people don't, want to help people out that are not confident in themselves, but when you see a gay man in your city, wherever you're from, if you were to at a bar, and like you'd want to go say hi to him, like you'd want to, like if he was like obviously gay, like if you and you knew it, and you'd want to connect with him, and you'd want to be his friend, and you'd want to reach out to him, because he's like having that same experience as you are, and it's like you're the
Right.
only other gay man there. So it's like,
Right.
great, like someone else is here. Someone can save me, you know?
Yeah.
So just don't be afraid to express yourself, whether that be with your clothing or your hair or your piercings or your painted fingernails or whatever.
Absolutely.
Sexuality, just be a freak. I mean, just do it. I mean, I don't know.
And the one thing I will, coming from a rural area, a lot of times I think, you get a false perception of, as we mentioned earlier, guys in Speedos at Pride. That's what gay was, So it's also okay to not be, gender fluid, or, it's also okay to not be those things if that's not what you are.
Right.
So don't feel pressured into, going down a path that's not you just because it's the new, thing that's accepted in LGBTQ plus culture. I'm not
be
saying
respectful of it.
I'm not saying don't give it a try if that's what you like or if that's what you're contemplating, but definitely always feel comfortable, regardless of where you are on that spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go into the final question. We do a segment called the Pot of Gold question because there's a pot of gold at the end of every rainbow.
Mm-hmm.
And it's where you get to ask me one question and I get to ask you one final question.
Okay.
It can be anything you want.
Anything I want. So, with all of this, where do you see this going? Where do you see this? What do you see? Like, I know you're probably really happy with it now, but like, what is like what is your main goal? What is your final destination? Like, yeah.
I would say, in terms of Weathering Rainbows, the reason why we started the show was to really get a good feel of, people that grew up in rural environments and to learn what we missed growing up as children.
Mm-hmm.
So with that, it's about discovering those things and inventing a lot of the things that we wish we'd have had. So like, for instance, in this show specifically, I thought about the fact that we need to have some sort of either app or something to where gay high school kids can connect more directly with appropriate aged people.
Mm-hmm.
And that, people that are not of appropriate age cannot get on those apps. So it's things like that I think we're going to discover. And I think that's what we're going to branch out in eventually.
Awesome.
As far as the show goes, I mean, we've got some awesome guests,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it's really going to grow. We're starting to get a lot of people in the podcast world that's been really helpful.
Awesome.
Et cetera. So, and one day we want to buy that castle in Lexington, and we want to fly a big old rainbow flag above it. So that's the ultimate goal. So
well, cool.
I just think at that point, if gay kids in Kentucky or anywhere in the Bible Belt sees, that there's a castle with a huge rainbow flag above it, like that's the point in which they're like,
Well, they're gonna know.
okay.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, wow, yeah.
Well, William, it has been a pleasure to have you on the show today.
It's been good.
Getting
It's
to
been
know
fun.
all these things. I've really related to a lot of what you've said because I'm from this area as well. Mm-hmm. So it was a pleasure talking to you. A huge thank you to William Rodenberg for that deep interview full of relevant advice, as well as for our wonderful logo design. Thank you so much for creating that for us. We really love it. It's perfect for what we do. For today's Sunset Clarity segment, I wanted to pass on a short piece of advice that, if followed, I think would make the world a much less scary place. I believe it's pivotal advice to maintain happy relationships, whether that is an intimate, romantic one or a simple acquaintance. Especially, this could be used in times of conflict, such as breakups or societal disagreements, because in those times we should definitely be watching our words and interactions. Something I try to remember is to pass my words through what I call the 4 gates of speech. And I got this advice from an old talk show called What's Your Problem? That aired from like 1967 to the mid-1990s. And the host, Bernard Meltzer, he said, whenever you go to speak, you should pass your speech through 4 quick questions. And those are, is it true? Is it kind? Is it necessary? And is it helpful? If the answer to any of those questions is no, then probably consider whether it should be left unsaid. Today, we also have to consider not just what we say, but what we do not say. With social media interactions, a lack of a response can be just as hurtful to others and harmful to our own reputation. A lot of times when we do not respond to others or comment on an important situation, it isn't due to not having time, but if we are honest, it is due to avoidance or fear of social awkwardness or personal annoyance. Dealing with social media interactions, perhaps we can make 2 simple etiquette rules when it comes to compliments and proposed opportunities. The first, I would say, is when someone compliments you, always make sure to acknowledge it and say thank you, at least for the first compliment. The second deals with proposed opportunities. And I would say that when someone offers you an opportunity, whether that's a business opportunity or a date or anything like that, get back to them in a reasonable time with a polite, yes, no, or I need more time to think about it. Just a response can kind of help them set their nerves at ease and I think that's important for us to be friendly to other people and to respond in that sort of way. Obviously, we can't go into all the etiquettes of social media because a lot of those are still being defined today. What is appropriate whenever you say you are a quasi-celebrity and get all kinds of messages every day? Obviously, you can't respond to all of those, but I do think it's important, at least for those that can, to kind of follow these etiquette rules on compliments and proposed opportunities. So I hope this has helped you a little bit today and can encourage you to do your part to make the world a bit friendlier and a lot less emotionally painful to others. Well, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Don't forget to come on back now. I know we all love a little vibration, so if you are not already, go ahead and subscribe to this podcast. And we will surprise you on occasion with a new release vibration in your pocket. But in the meantime, if you find yourself alone or crossing new horizons along the Rainbow Trail, and you need a friend or even a laugh to get you through those dark and stormy nights, holler on out to us at weatheringrainbows.com, where you can find shelter in the blogs, videos, and other episodes that will hopefully keep you out of a whole heap of trouble. So until next time, y'all, giddy up, be true to yourself, and make the best of life. And wherever the wild tracks may lead you, may the rainbow always touch your shoulder.